Ah, you're probably here for the show. Well, let's sink our teeth right into it, shall we? Why, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to another helping of the Bloody Fang-Tastic Show. I'm your host, Lark the Vampire, and this is the show where I give you pretty much a triple helping: a review, mythos, and facts on a vampire movie. So this month, the movie we're going to be going over is the 1998 classic Blade. Let's start it with the review, shall we? Put them fangs away for now. So, Blade. So this one is written by David S. Goyer and directed by Stephen Norrington, starring Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff, Chris Christopherson, N. Busher Wright, and Donald Logue. So this is a superhero action horror, where it's also based on the Marvel comics of the same name by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. And this is basically the story of Blade, who is a vampire hunter who is also a half vampire himself. And he is known as the Vampires to the Day Walker and hunts those vampires down at night, and is a hybrid because his mother was bitten by a vampire whilst pregnant with him. And of course, there is another vampire out there called Deacon Frost who wants to unlock an ancient power of vampirism so that he could become unstoppable, and only Blade can stop him. So that's pretty much the plot there. So what did I like about this? Well, I like that this was a Marvel movie adaptation. I mean, I've seen my good share of Blade comics. I can remember when the UK first came out I actually read a first issue of that back in the day when I was selling, well, I still sell comics. Anyways, yes, I thought Wesley Snipes was brilliant in this role. It's like he was made for it, and this wasn't just the first, this was like the first R-rated, well, no, it was the first time that they proved an R-rated movie that is superhero related can work with a black lead actor. I mean, look where we were 20 years later with Black Panther, and Blade is also about to enter the MCU. But at the time, this was done by New Line, and this is when superhero movies weren't the big enterprise that it is now. No, we had this was pretty much the first of its kind to be actually proper successful since Superman and Batman. And I mean, we had some Marvel comics adaptations back before Blade, like The Punisher and Howard the Duck. Has gone on to be a cult favourite, that one, Howard. But this one was a true success, and I like the action in this, and the score and the soundtrack. Also, the cinematography is just so brilliant. I remember I went to see this back in 1997 and wasn't pretty happy with it, so I'm glad they got to redo it and they did it right. Of course, they did have to make a few cuts, which I found a little disappointing, but test screeners. Anyway, yes, I thought this had good visuals for its time as well. I mean, some of the CGI is a bit dated now, but you got to think, in 1998 that was really something. And of course, Stephen Dorff as Frost. Interesting villain. There was Chris Christopherson as Blade's, his friend and helped him over the years. Whistler, who was a good, loyal. I like to think of him as Blade's sidekick in this one. I also like the mythology of the vampires, and it's quite different to the vampire that I am. Of course, they do make some changes. We'll get to that shortly in the mythology. But Blade, what didn't I like? Well, there isn't much to dislike really about this one. It's nicely done well, and it has a just as good sequel with the touch of Guillermo del Toro behind that one, but maybe I'll do that in another episode one day, I don't know. But anyway, Blade, the first film, it is, Bloody Fang-Tastic, and Wesley Snipes just sells it. Mahershala Ali has some big shoes to fill with Marvel Studios doing Blade very soon, but yes, for now this is probably one of the best vampire action Marvel movies that I've seen. Of course, Marvel has come a long way since then, hasn't it? But Blade, what am I going to give this one? I think I will give Blade... You know what? I'll give it 5 fangs out of 5. So there you go. There is my review on Blade. So, let's go to our next part, shall we? The Mythos! The mythology of the vampire in this 1998 film feature such common traits as feeding on blood, burning in the sunlight, and also having mass regenerative abilities and strength. But, of course, there are other changes made, such as Whistler in the film stating that vampires age slower than humans, meaning they age. Also, vampires can be born vampires in this too, as well as turned from being human. And their weaknesses in this are silver. Silver bullets or silver stakes pretty much can turn them into dust and burn them out, and are also recognised through a signature tattoo that they have on them. Blade, on the other hand, is a hybrid, as his mother was attacked by a vampire and bitten whilst she was pregnant with him, but some of the vampire blood got into little Eric Brooks, aka Blade, as a child, and of course he grew up feeding on homeless till Whistler found him. Whistler found that he has the traits of a vampire, such as strength and healing abilities, but can also walk in the daylight because of his human half, but of course has a lust and a craving for human blood, so represses it with injections that Whistler prescribes to him. Blade was due for release in 1997, but after a negative response from test screen audiences, reshoots were made and scenes were cut, one of those scenes being a cameo from Stan Lee where he was a police officer. Wesley Snipes was interested in doing a movie adaptation of the Black Panther comics when he was offered the project. He said that he was unfamiliar with the Blade comics, seeing more of a connection to the black exploitative heroes of the 1970s. I just approached him as he really cool character where I'd get to do martial arts and wear leather suits, he said. When David S. Goyer pitched the idea of doing a Blade film, the executives of New Line felt there were only 3 actors who could possibly do the role, them being Wesley Snipes, Denzel Washington, and Lawrence Fishburne. But in Goyer's mind, Snipes was always the perfect choice for the character of Blade. Chris Christopherson's character Whistler was created for Blade's cameo on Spider-Man the Animated Series in 1994. He was so much liked by Marvel's CEO that he was adapted into the Marvel Universe. Karen was originally going to be played by a white actress in the film, but Wesley Snipes encouraged them to cast a black female actress. In updating the vampire lore, Stephen Norrington and David S. Goyer decided that crosses wouldn't work against vampires, clicking that what if they would be Jewish vampires? Why would a cross work against them? So they decided to not have the whole cross thing featured. At the 28-minute mark, when Karen meets Whistler, Blade can be seen holding a map of New Orleans. This is not only implies the city they are in, it is a homage to the comic books, where many of the Blade stories and series occur in New Orleans. Jet Li was offered the part of Deacon Frost, but opted to do Lethal Weapon 4 instead. In the original Marvel Comics storyline, the character of Blade was English, not American. Wesley Snipes became attached to the project because it was discussion with Marvel Comics to play Black Panther. The movie Black Panther was adapted in 2018 and was released over 20 years later as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe without his involvement. Michael Morbius was meant to be an antagonist for an eventual sequel, but the idea was dropped due to the fact of the character rights belonging to the Spider-Man universe, and their licensing was the property of Sony at that time, and still is. However, the vampire that is seen in the alternate ending of Blade is said to be Morbius himself. In 2019 at the San Diego Comic-Con, Marvel boss Kevin Feige confirmed that they will be doing a Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali, and production was said to begin in July of 2022. But due to some complications, filming for it has been delayed. But the film is still set for release in 2023, meaning Blade fans will have to wait that little bit longer to see Blade in the MCU. However, he did make a voice cameo in the post-credits scene of the 2021 film Eternals in the MCU. And there you have it, this month's episode. So, have you seen Blade? Have you learnt anything new about it you didn't know, or anything like that? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and to share with your friends. I have been Lark the Vampire, and this has been the Bloody Fang-Tastic Show. So until next time, don't have nightmares.